Hello, my name is Lizzie Scott, and this is my portfolio presentation. I lived in England up until the age of 12. I then moved to America in 2007 and lived in Florida for another 12 years. As you can tell, my southern accent's coming along swimmingly. I got asked the question recently, is my work related to my past? Which I honestly didn't think it was. But after dwelling on this, I came to a conclusion. I am an artist now because I grew up with dyslexia. To alliterate, dyslexia is a learning disability where we don't learn in a traditional way. It affects everyone differently, and we each have to figure out our own learning style. For me, it was working with my hands. Now painting, drawing, and ceramics is my main focus in life, and I plan to become an artist. Without dyslexia, I might not have taken this path. My main inspiration is color. I cannot work in black and white, it drives me a little nuts. I incorporate color into every piece of work I make, and these two artists are great examples of using color. They use it in a tasteful way without it being too overwhelming. Other inspirations for me are nature, animals, music, and video games. Recurring themes in my work are animals, plants, skulls, fungi, and sometimes eggs. I find eggs very fun to draw. They hold a lot of symbolism, such as the circle of life, hope, purity, and sometimes just breakfast, as you can see in the picture. I mean, who doesn't like drawing a cute little egg? This is my previous body of work where I experimented with different styles and preferences. I started off learning how to draw the figure and using charcoal, from which I quickly learned I don't like using charcoal, it's too messy. With this piece I incorporated a fox using a ballpoint pen, and I really like the contrast between the chalk and the smoothness of the pen. This is a concentration I hope to continue with one day. Now, if ceramics wasn't my main focus, it would be oil paint. I love everything about it. The way it flows, has great pigment, texture's soft, and even like how it smells. I was inspired to make this piece when I saw a great horned owl swoop down to catch a mouse one night. This is another oil painting about a mushroom apocalypse series I did last year. When mushrooms started growing on everything, it destroyed society and many people died from this disaster. This is a scene where people are trying to rebuild some normalcy. 3 ceramicists are making cups and bowls and firing them using a basic pit fire. My process begins with an idea and a sketch. I next find the right clay and use the ceramic wheel to make my form. I then paint them using underglaze, and I use an electric kiln to fire my work, which is the easiest to use. I then use the electric kiln to take the clay to a bisque, which is 1800 degrees. After that, the clay is ready to be glazed, and I usually use a clear glaze so you can see what I've painted on the piece. It goes back into the kiln after that to a cone 6, which is 2200 degrees, and then after it's cooled down, it's a functional item. The final product is a finished series of work such as these bottles, which was the first time I applied ceramic mushrooms to my pieces. It was kind of a breakthrough moment. Now these are a couple of examples of my work in the past. I have been working with ceramics for 2 years now, and I feel like I've finally got to grips with it. There is a huge learning curve with this medium. The fail rate is very high, but both my ewer and oil cruet turned out very well and has helped me learn for future works. My current portfolio, my research on mushrooms. I wanted to do research on the subject I was interested in, and I could relate to nature and pollution. Mushrooms are one of the oldest living organisms on Earth, and there are many ways fungi have helped the environment as well as be useful to humans, such as food, medicine, and textiles. But my main focus is the pollution that humans have created that harm the environment. Plastics, oil spills, nuclear waste, and bacteria buildup are just naming a few. Here is my portfolio about how mushrooms naturally clean up the environment of pollution. Oil spill platters. The mycelium, the roots of the oyster mushroom, can absorb the hydrocarbons that naturally occur in oil. These platters vary in size and show the progression of time. I used a shiny glaze to represent the oil on the first platter. On the second, I introduced the oyster mushrooms that can absorb the oil, and the third reveals a clear lake with no oil and nature has returned. Oyster mushrooms can help clean up disastrous oil spills. Nuclear tower mugs. The spike cap, the chanterelle, and the amethyst deceiver mushroom can all absorb nuclear waste that has contaminated the environment through leaks at nuclear plants. The form of the mug represents the nuclear tower. Cracks in the side reveal waste pouring out from the side, and the 3 mushrooms are at the bottom ready to absorb the pollution. Lead espresso cups. The element lead is very hazardous to the human body, causing brain and kidney damage. Lead was commonly used as a dye in textile factories. Lots of water was used to rinse the dyed fabric, and the contaminated water was eventually dumped in lakes. It was found that the turkey tail mushroom could absorb lead and break it down naturally. These mushrooms grow on the sides of trees, as they do on my cups. The mushroom acts as a handle or finger rest. The side of the cup is carved to resemble bark, and considering lead was used in red dyes, I filled the cracks with red underglaze. Phosphorus vase. Phosphorus is used in fertilizer to help plants grow. Farmers use a lot of phosphorus, but plants can only reach so much with their roots. All the extra phosphorus is wasted in the soil and eventually travels to runoffs like ponds. The milkcap, porcinus, chanterelle, and pine mushroom can all absorb phosphorus deep in the soil and share it with the plant in exchange for nutrients. These mushrooms are on one side of the vase, while on the other is the alchemic symbol for phosphorus, as well as its periodic table information. Adding mushrooms to crops can help them grow bigger and lessen the waste of phosphorus in contaminated soil. For my last project, my algae bowls were connected to the last slide. The other question is, what happens to all the extra phosphorus that travels in runoffs? It helps blue-green algae grow on the surface of ponds. It affects fish and plant life living there. Mycelium, the roots of the mushrooms, absorb phosphorus and can completely clear the water's surface of algae. My bowls represent round rocks found in ponds that have algae growing on them. The inside is a clear blue glaze, representing the water and the faint traces of roots helping to keep the water clear. These are a few references I used during the presentation. And I'd like to thank everyone for listening to my presentation about the benefits of mushrooms on the environment. Thank you.